Good evening. I'd like to call the school committee meeting for Monday, November 21st, 2022 to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask if anybody has any cell phones, electronic devices, if you would shut them off or put them on silent, it would be appreciated. Also like to let you know that this meeting is being taped and is shown live stream this evening on youtube.com/DHS TV Media, and also rebroadcast on both Channel 9 and Channel 18 throughout the week at various times. And we thank them for all their support. Roll call, please.
John Nunes.
Yeah.
Mary Waite. Kathleen Amaral.
Here.
Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
Chris Oliver.
Here.
All right, thank you. Welcome back, Ms. Gunther. Nice to see you. Okay, first order of business. We've allotted 10 minutes for public comment on anything that's on tonight's agenda. I will ask you to please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and I will stop at 10 minutes. So if one goes over, the other one, somebody's going to get shortchanged, just so that you're aware, okay? Thank you. Just need your name and who you are, please, and what you represent. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jasmine O'Lean, and I work at DeMello School. I even wrote that part, so I wouldn't forget to say it. This is my 20th year being an educator, and I started my career in Fall River, and I worked in the city for 9 years, and I learned a lot. 11 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be hired into the competitive district of Dartmouth, and I was so excited. And it was here that I became a better teacher, the teacher that I am today. Immediately, I fell in love with the staff, my team, administrators, and especially my students and their families. I am confident to say that my students know that I care about them and I put them first, making sure to address not only their academic needs, but their social emotional needs as well. I strive every day to be my absolute best for them, and I will continue to do so. But I am tired. I'm tired of trying so hard and feeling like it's never good enough. I'm tired when every year I make less than the year before because the pay increases don't even come close to covering the increases of health insurance. I'm tired as I look around and I see valuable staff that are leaving. The same staff that I learned so much from, because our workloads continue to increase to amounts that feel impossible, while others struggle to pay for their basic needs, 65%. Nurses have designated and designed protocols and worked around the clock getting us through COVID, and they continue to keep us safe. Secretaries keep the schools afloat by supporting teachers and principals in ways that build the foundation of our schools. Teaching assistants, they run small groups, they cover classrooms, and anything else under the sun that they are asked to do, and they do it well. But where is the appreciation? Where is the validation of the work that the people do? People who all work directly with kids. The people in those buildings day in and day out, the ones taking care of Dartmouth's children. They are the ones that have built relationships, your reputation, and keep your property values up. But we are tired, and many of your district employees are struggling to pay their bills. They are leaving. I would like to also ask, how come other districts are able to figure it out, but we can't? I have worked with the most tremendous individuals, and I have learned from colleagues, and I have watched many of them leave and go to other districts. We know that you value the excellent work that the professionals at Bush Street do because they're compensated for it. But when it comes to keeping the professionals who support your children directly, face to face, every day, you need to reevaluate what you are doing to keep them here. We are demanding a fair contract for all of our units, the nurses, the secretaries, the teaching assistants, and teachers. Make Dartmouth competitive again. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Heidi Spicer, and this is my colleague, Kelly Steele, and we're both preschool teachers over at Cushman School. During the last school committee meeting, we had waited in line to discuss our responsibilities in the preschool position. However, public comment had been cut off before we were able to come up and discuss our concerns. And we strongly do feel that you should hear the importance of making the teacher contract more inclusive to the preschool staff. Throughout the contract negotiation process, my colleague and I have found that multiple times we've been saying things like, what about preschool? Where does preschool fit? Our current contract does not provide information pertaining to the vast differences between a preschool teacher and any other elementary teacher. The preschool staff currently wears multiple hats. We are a general education teacher. We are a special education teacher, despite the fact that 50% of the preschool staff are not licensed special education teachers. We are also evaluators in the initial evaluation process. Our students are on many different educational levels. We have 8 peer partners who are typically developing and up to 7 special education students. Our special needs students range in abilities from developmentally delayed to more significant needs, which mirror more the PALS and PASS programs. This means we are responsible to plan lessons and activities following the Massachusetts curriculum standards, write IEPs, progress reports, and evaluation reports, and provide supplementary aids and adapt general lessons for the special education students. When looking at prep time in comparison to our elementary school colleagues, preschool has the less time to prepare with additional responsibilities. Additionally, we are responsible for the toileting assistance and diapering of our special education students, which potentially could be up to 7 students. On top of the toileting and diapering, we are also responsible for cleaning and changing the peer partners if they have an accident. This added duty is not seen anywhere for other teachers. For other bargaining units that do handle toileting and diapering needs, they receive a stipend, as should any other unit who shares that added responsibility. We hope for a contract that will include preschool and the uniqueness of the position. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
Hi, thank you. We are the district RBT team, and we are here to tell you a little bit about what we do and why we think we deserve a stipend increase. Thank you for our time. We provide students who have moderate to severe functioning levels of ASD diagnosis with intensive one-to-one ABA therapy. ABA is a therapy based on the scientific principles of learning and behavior. As district RBTs, we use systematic procedures aimed to increase necessary educational and developmental milestones. This includes improvement of language and communication, adaptive skills, attention, and social interactions. We also work to decrease any behavior challenges that a child may have, such as aggression, self-injury, endangerment, or property destruction. We are all thoroughly trained in behavior management techniques to properly help prevent, manage, and de-escalate any given situation. Our everyday job duties include case management of currently 7 to 9 students served 3 to 5 times a week, daily implementation of skill acquisition programs and behavior reduction support plans, management and acquisition of all programs and materials, setup of daily data collection, maintenance of cumulative and percentile data plus input and graphing of all data for each child on our daily weekly basis. Communication with teachers and service providers is also done every day. To work as an RBT in this district, we are required to have at least an associate's degree, although most of us do have bachelors. We have to complete 40 hours of training in ABC procedures and principles modules, pass an initial competency assessment, which we must demonstrate mastery of 20 different domains, adhere to the BACBA ethics code and RBT task list. We have to renew our certification annually, continuing to prove domain mastery and pay our certification fee every year. Sorry. This is through the Behavior Analysis Certification Board, which is internationally recognized governing body for practitioners working in behavior analysis. What we want to highlight is that there has been a huge increase in our caseload over the past few years. Ending June 2020, we had 10 students, which accumulated to 49.5 hours. As of November 2022, we are now at 31 students, 125.5 hours. We are covering all these students, and it continues to increase. Plus all the data, the casework, the program management, it's all accumulating. So we just think that we deserve a little bit more with the increase and recognition of what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. That's it. All righty. Thank you very much. Moving, excuse me, moving on to the next order of business, the approval of the regular session minutes of November 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Waite. On the motion, any discussion? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Executive session minutes of the same night.
I'll move with the usual stipulation that they be held until the matters for which they are intended are complete.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Waite, second by Dr. Jenkins. Very good, you've memorized that well.
Oh, thank you. It took some time.
On the motion, any
Your time.
discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, on to some more good stuff. And we're going to do the middle school first, right? Okay, you got that?
Sure.
Okay.
So I believe we're going to start with the middle school plan tonight, and Mr. Darren Doan, principal, will introduce his team, who will then present the school improvement plan.
Well, thank you for having us this evening. I'm going to soon turn this over this evening to my successor, Mr. Rossi. Now that I'm taking it the easy way out, but it's, again, it's been a wonderful journey for me, but these goals initially are going to be theirs as they move forward, and it's important that, you know, they have the opportunity to kind of share their thoughts and works, and, you know, they worked extremely hard. And we also have Mr. Madden with us, who's going to step into Mr. Rossi's role February 1st, so I thought it was important that the whole team was here. But we have Mr. Hayes, our assistant principal, Mrs. Dekas, our associate principal, and now I'll turn it over to Mr. Rossi, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doan. It's been quite a run for you. Good evening, everyone. Before we report out on our school improvement plan, I wanted to introduce Mr. Sam Madden. Mr. Madden's with us tonight, and although we are, and he's going to be taking over February 1, and although we're saddened with the departure of Mr. Doan, we're very happy to have Mr. Madden and his skill set join our team. Sam's been at the middle school for 16 years, and he is also a graduate of Dartmouth High. He is also a Wordle and Words with Friends extraordinaire. Mr. Madden?
I apologize, I lost my voice, so I'll be brief. But as Mr. Rossi mentions, I grew up in Dartmouth, attended Dartmouth schools, and since I've been at the middle school for the past 16 years, I've come to realize how important this town is to me, how important the people in the school district are to me. So I just feel extremely fortunate and grateful to have this opportunity to be a part of this administrative team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Sam, and that's a great segue into a sense of belonging. So what does a sense of belonging look like, and what does it mean at the Dartmouth Middle School? With the help of Learn Launch, we define a sense of belonging as the feeling that one's authentic self is seen, valued, affirmed, and connected to and by the school. We believe it comes down to relationship building and finding a student's passion and giving them the opportunity to explore that passion further, whether that be through academics, the arts, music, athletics, technology, languages, or drama productions. Giving our kids a sense of purpose is the key to success. So let's talk a little bit about the work that's already been done with a sense of belonging. Our guidance department has received specialized training with DCF and the Crisis Center. Our entire staff received DESE training on LGBTQ+. Guidance staff monitored school attendance and provided outreach and support for families in need. Guidance also runs targeted social skills groups for kids within our school community. We also identified and helped families in need during the holiday season, which is a long-standing tradition at the Dartmouth Middle School. All grade levels provided targeted lessons in social studies on humanitarianism and good citizenship. Through those efforts, we raised $4,000 for the International Red Cross. Our after-school program was able to run last year, and we offered a wide range of activities from orchestra, robotics, creative writing, Little Green News, drama club, jewelry making, weightlifting, and sports. We believe there's truly something for everyone. We've been able to offer online academic assistance during that time frame as well. Our PBIS team planned many school-wide events, including our Spooky Relay, Pink Day, Dartmouth Strong Day, the Rare Fair, our 8th grade class trip, and our 8th grade class party. And finally, Mr. Garcia, our adjustment counselor, started a unified basketball team that was a huge success. We were able to have a home and away series with Fairhaven and a faculty game as well, and I'd estimate that probably 85% of our student body came out for that home game with Fairhaven. It was truly one of the great days of last year. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Deaconess, and she's going to talk about grade-appropriate instruction.
Hello, everybody. 21-22 seems like a lifetime ago, even though it was just a few months ago. One of the things that we did last year is we realized that we needed a lot more options for modified assessments. We found that the kids were learning at a much broader range of abilities. So instead of having a modified and a regular assessments, they're more on a spectrum now. So that's one of the things that really came to be, particularly after COVID last year and a year long of hybrid. We also added pacing calendars into our curriculum planning time, which really has helped us with the long-range planning and ensuring that the standards are hit, throughout the year. Again, it seems like a really long time ago, but 3/4 of the year last year, we had a period of time that was called academic enrichment. Up until March of last year, the kids were all still eating in their homerooms because of the COVID restrictions. So we had a half hour that they were eating and a half hour of enrichment time. During that time, it truly was, to the best of our ability, a time where they could work on reviewing or enrichment activities and really dive a little deeper into the various content areas. The teachers worked really, really hard in creating what we call choice boards that we're still using now for review or enrichment activities. Thinking of the science teachers created in our instructional technology, so many in the 8th grade that went 6, 7, and 8, and that really helped them review all 3 grade levels for the science MCAS, and they were able to do that during that time. We found and continue to find, as most of us realize, when there's choice, it's much more engaging for the kids, keeps them motivated, particularly those reluctant learners. So those are kind of our highlights from last year. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hayes just to go over the understanding.
There it is. So as Ms. Zekas was saying, it seemed so long ago, we had to spend some time in that school year meeting vertically to identify some of the possible learning gaps from our non-traditional school schedule that we had for some of those previous months. We also used the pretest and some other formative assessments to identify the areas of need and some of the strengths of our students, right? Because we still had students excelling even though there were some areas of weakness there. that allowed us to provide some just-in-time targeted interventions, as well as to continue to challenge our students, some of our advanced learners, and to further their development. Also, through our various PLC teams, because we have a number of them that meet at the middle school level, we were able to closely monitor and analyze the data from STAR testing, from their MCAS scores, benchmarks, and some of the other assessments that we give to ensure that the interventions that we were using, those targeted interventions, were actually useful and to adapt those. And our teachers did a wonderful job working really hard to adapt those interventions to make sure that we were to the best of our ability, addressing all of our students' needs as well as their strengths. So we really focused on looking at making sure those interventions were effective and making sure that we were doing all that we could to address them, including our schedule changing a little bit, as Ms. Deacus was talking about. How do we fill some of those gaps? And I think our teachers and staff did a wonderful job doing that.
I'm going to come back with what our plan is for this year with a sense of belonging. Presently, we've begun our first 2 sessions of our after-school program, and our unified basketball team is going to be expanding to unified bocce, which should be pretty interesting. I'm excited to see that. Our PBIS team continues to organize school-wide events. We recently ran our Spooky Relay, our Pink Day, and this Wednesday, kids will take part in our Dartmouth Strong Day, with this year's theme being, you guessed it, a sense of belonging. Guidance continues to monitor school attendance, family outreach, holiday assistance, and the running of social groups. We were able to run Career Day for the first time since the pandemic, and it included 32 guest speakers from the community. This was targeted at our 7th grade population. Our Kindness Cafe, run by our Pass and Pals programs, was able to reopen. Our check-in, check-out, and our step-up program continue to shape positive behaviors and build positive relationships with our Tier 2 and Tier 3 population. Our National Junior Honor Society will continue with its beach cleanup initiatives, its book drive with Gifts to Give, and for the first time since COVID, they will partner with Dartmouth High's Honor Society for a Valentine's Day dance at the Council on Aging. Finally, over the summer, we partnered with Learn Launch, and they helped us frame our school-wide professional practice goal with staff, which is to foster a sense of belonging at DMS. Staff is presently in the first year of that 2-year SMART goal. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Mrs. Deacus for more grade-appropriate instruction.
Okay. In addition to the professional practice goal that Mr. Rossi mentioned, our student learning goal is focusing more on stamina, independence, comprehension, areas that were identified by all of the different content areas. We're really trying to target writing across the curriculum, as well as math fluency and scientific reasoning. Excuse me. I can't say enough about our special ed staff that worked so hard, really thinking outside of the box, trying to make sure that we met the needs of the kids that we have. They were very creative and very willing to try new things. And as a result, we have new courses that we are trying. We have teachers that are teaching cross-grade level that we've never had before. We have a lot more small group and individualized instruction as a result, and they've done a great job. And we really have a lot more confidence that we're going to be able to close those gaps at a faster pace than we were before. So can't say enough about how hard they've worked to make that happen. Some other good news that came out of our STAR testing at the beginning of this year is that for the most part, the majority of the students in September, their reading level was pretty much on target with where they should be. We do have the outliers and kids that need specialized instruction, and they are getting that. But it does reinforce for us that they absolutely should be getting grade level or even a higher level reading materials to continue on that path. So that was really something that we felt really good about. During our curriculum planning time on a weekly basis, every single time we look at our scope and sequence, we update it with any resources that we may have. We really look at what our summative and formative assessments are, and they are live it's a live document. We're constantly adding those in so that we use that document on a regular basis. Just recently, we did add, actually, that we literally within the last week started adding a reflective piece that we will add at the end of each unit, if not more often. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is we have started working more closely with the high school than we have in years. We've already made plans for the end of this year for the Dartmouth High lead teachers to work with our 8th grade teachers and really make sure that that vertical planning is happening. And then hopefully it will be our first annual, but on a week from tomorrow, we have we are hosting a Business Innovation and Technology Day for the 8th grade. They're bringing everybody down, and they're going to be able to have the kids cycle through and really see what's going on at the high school, and hopefully keep them engaged in what's the learning and excited about coming to Dartmouth High, and kind of all work together as one district. So we're really excited about that. Mr. Hayes?
With that, our PLCs have met with an increased focus on calibrating student work across grade levels, with a real emphasis on increasing stamina for all of our students, as we found that to be one of the deficits across the board, for our students in 6th through 8th grade. We've also continued to analyze data to monitor student progress and identify the appropriate targeted interventions, and to develop some individualized intervention plans. And some of the work that Ms. Deacons was speaking to has really been used to identify individualized intervention plans for, whether that really be, individual students or small groups of students. She spoke to some of the really good work that our special education department has done. It's been phenomenal in really identifying specific gaps and helping students through those. And we also continue to provide frequent formative assessments that provide timely feedback. A number of our teachers are using wonderful softwares that allow them immediate feedback, allow them to address student strengths and deficits immediately, to again, help with intervention plans, whether that be, to strengthen students or to address some of the gaps that we've identified through those testings. So with that, I think Mr. Doan, you wanted to...
Well, I don't know if the committee has any questions, thoughts, remarks?
Mr. Oliver?
Sure. Just a couple of brief remarks. First of all, thank you for the presentation, everyone. It was very informative. What I'm seeing here is quite a bit of out-of-the-box thinking and definitely some more collaboration across grade levels, especially with the high school. I'm happy to see. But overall, I'll keep it brief. Keep up the good work. I'm happy to see all the deep thinking and the collegial nature of everything that's taken place. So, thank you. Thank you all.
Dr. Jenkins?
I'll also say thank you. I guess my one question would be, I assume by stamina you mean sort of time on learning task? Is that what you mean by that?
What we were finding is consistently kept hearing repeatedly that student would write a sentence. Is this right? Well, there was no grit in the learning, and a lot of that, they had lost that. And so when we say stamina, being able to stick with a task or a writing assignment for a longer period of time, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, we've been dealing with some of those same issues. It pushes up through the pipeline to us and, higher ed, and we've been doing some collective reading, a book called iGen, and about sort of the impact on device usage, on the issues of stamina and time on task and attention to task. Yeah, and so I've just never heard it called that, and so it's very interesting to me. I think this is great, and I love to see all the work that you're doing, so thank you.
Yeah, as my colleagues have said, really the sense of belonging. It's and clearly your practices around thinking outside the box, and you talked about the special education and sort of working to kind of meet the needs of the students and kind of bridge those gaps. I love the work that you're doing in terms of transition to the high school. That's only going to reap benefits, I'm sure. And I'm just thank you. I'm always been a cheerleader and of your thoughtful approach. And welcome, Mr. Madden. Glad to see you part of the administration at the middle school. So thank you for this.
No, again, like echoing my colleagues, it was a great presentation. Thank you so much. I think, I'm always really impressed by like the targeted interventions and really trying to, bring those students up. I guess my one question, and this is something I've heard feedback from parents, maybe, in the middle school is for those students who excel, how do you because I feel like I've heard from parents concerns that, in some cases, like those kids maybe get bored, how are you trying to meet their needs and address their needs? It's just an issue that has come up as I've talked to parents across over the years.
One of the things that we're doing is a lot of the book choices, because we do have some kids that are reading at a pretty high level, and so they certainly would be steered toward books that are at a much higher level than some of the other. So when we're doing an independent reading or a book club, they would be in a book club with groups. It's one of the things we do with reading now is kind of like we do as adults.
Right.
They're in book clubs together, and they are able to talk, and so they are at a higher level. We're using the Khan Academy a lot for the math programs. We've got some kids, if we do our formative assessment and they're getting 100 on it, we're not going to reteach them something they already know, so they're getting differentiated and they're getting a different assignment that may be on Khan Academy or Algebra 1 or a different lesson altogether. So we're very mindful of that. One of the things that we're really enjoying is we've been using a lot more of the Edge Elastic, and that gives you pretty much on the formative right away. We'll tell you, and we'll say, well, these 4 kids, so let's get them something else. And so we don't even bother giving them the next assignment. They'll do something totally different. So that kind of thing.
That's great. And I think seeing that you're meeting again that much more with the high school, I think that's going to be a great transitional thing that there's that vertical teaming. And I also just the plethora of what you're offering to the kids after school. I think a lot of these kids struggle to find their place and their people. So the more that you're offering, it's great to meet them where they are. So thank you.
Very good. I'm impressed with, a lot of, I heard the comment out of the box thinking a number of times, and that really means that, we're trying something different versus the standard way. Just simple, easy question. How many students participate in your after-school, give or take? And I'm not...
We have approximately about 350 students who
that's good.
participate. And
Yeah.
in addition to that, we do have students who take advantage of our online learning that runs from 2:30 to 4.
Very good.
So we have staff that supports that.
Thank you.
And even with the transportation, over the past few years, we know there wasn't enough drivers, still aren't, for Tremblay, so we were concerned administratively about how that would negatively impact, but thankfully, we still have a number of students who participate, so the numbers didn't change all that drastically.
Good. Good to hear. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
It was
Ladies
excellent.
and gentlemen.
Just lastly, I was asked many years ago, Mr. Ross and I have been, since 2007, we have worked together in administrative capacity. I stood in front of school committee members then, I don't know if you were there, Mr. Nunes.
Yeah.
The previous principal that was hired chose not to take the position. Chairman of the school committee said, we know Mr. Doan will do what's right for the community and the students. I didn't apply for the job. And here I am, 14 years later. But my point being is, we were asked a few years ago, what was our biggest strength as a middle school? And I had to give it some thought. And then our biggest strength is that we're not complacent. And that we are very reflective practitioners. When I say we, it's not just us, but it's our staff in general. And I have no doubt that under Mr. Rossi's leadership and team, they will continue to not be complacent, to be reflective, and to continually strive to support students as well as staff and community. So Dartmouth Middle School is in very, very good hands, and I'm extremely proud of all 4 of them and having had the opportunity to work with a number of them for many, many years. So
And
thank you.
You've left it in good hands, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Doan.
Hi, everyone. We're two people because the rest of our team is, I think, fighting some high schoolers in volleyball right now as the National Honor Society. There's a legendary high school team that is a teacher team that's competing, so we have a bunch of our people on that team too. So I have Rachel Xavier, our associate principal, here as well with me, and everyone else is in the gym.
It's an excused absence.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're having a lot of fun over there.
We have over 24 teams competing during this
Wow.
fundraiser, so it's the most teams that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Good.
I want to second a lot of what the middle school staff said too. I think we have a really great working relationship. It started this summer at MSAA, where we kind of really bonded as two united schools, and we've worked a lot well. Rob Ferrati is putting together a showcase day at the middle school just for the students, and then we're working together as a showcase at the high school, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I definitely want to second what Sarah was saying on that, is that it is a really nice partnership between the two schools. So we had a great year last year. We really did. We were able to start to come back to normal, and we, especially once we hit around March, it really opened up, and we were able to talk about that. So Rachel's gonna, they did a great job of introducing sense of belonging, so we don't have to go through a whole spiel on all of those. They did better than I could say it. So Rachel's gonna talk about sense of belonging.
Well, Dartmouth High, I think, is very strong with the sense of belonging. We have so many things that go on with our band and with after-school programs. But one of our greatest successes is our advisory, which was created approximately 4 years ago. And it really helped carry us through the pandemic and support our students and let them know that there were caring, sensitive adults in the building that wanted to connect with them. So the use of advisory to support students' social, emotional needs, life skills, instruction, and digital citizenship. The mission of the advisory program when we first created the advisory program was to provide students with academic advisement and goal setting, personal wellness, community building, and at the end of last year, we started discussing with our instructional technology specialist, Jen Thomas, excuse me, digital citizenship, which is very important, where students can learn how to persevere, how to put aside the technology when they need to be successful. So this year, we've added that particular strand to the advisory, and we also have reestablished our advisory design team, which we had before the pandemic, and of course that became unhinged. And now we have a very solid group of teachers from every content area, and we meet to plan the advisory. So it's a village. It takes the village to create thoughtful advisories for our students. And our next goal, which is a little hint moving forward, is to get some student input so we can hear what they need in advisory and to capture their voice. Last year, we were very happy to return to traditional high school events. It was discouraging not to have graduation and prom and after prom, and we were able to do that. And the silver lining was that we were able to implement the senior sunset, which I think we're going to do every year now, the senior stroll, where the seniors go back and they visit their elementary schools. So those are two things that came out of the pandemic that we're very proud of. Also, we have been recognized as a unified banner school. This is our second time to receive national banner recognition, and this work started last year and the year before. It's a Special Olympics Unified Champion School, has an inclusive school climate, exudes a sense of collaboration, engagement, and respect for all members of the student body and the staff. So we have some phenomenal coaches and teachers that have just done a great job in creating an inclusive, unified program. So once again, it takes a village, and we're very proud of our accomplishments.
I think we're seeing the definition of it takes a village over here. Thank you, Renee. So when we talk about grade and appropriate instruction, we're talking about that return to blended and personalized learning. The district with the Highlander Institute prior to the pandemic invested a lot. We had 3 cohorts go through training. We really last year focused it back into that blended and personalized learning. Some of the pandemic taught us the tools that we had in front of us, modeled that structure where you can do breakout groups in one side on a computer with an ed puzzle activity, and you can do a small group in front of you, and then you can do a third independent group. So you have like that enrich, sustain, and push forward model. So that really was a project that we took on last year and focused on, and that was really impressive to see continue, and teachers wanting to get really back to that. We focused on applying the tools we learned over the pandemic with traditional in-person methodology and the instruction with ed tools. And again, Jen Thomas has been a really strength on that. And then the other big one is that we've continued our partnership with Mass Insight through our sustainability agreement. That was last year. We're still working with them as an a la carte model this year. But in last year, they really helped with our Project Lead the Way and our AP programming. So they have been a really strong support for us. I was able to go to 2 days of training this summer. We sent teachers to week-long trainings this summer. They were a really big partner that we were really excited to work with and continue to work with today.
Oh, my turn. For monitoring of understanding, we last year had our annual end-of-the-year curriculum summit where lead teachers work with members of their department in documenting curriculum, looking at the pacing, looking at assessments, moving away from traditional assessments, and looking more at project-based learning or assessments, and getting more creative with authentic learning experiences. Also, teachers shared best instructional practices and spent some time reflecting on what they needed to do for just-in-time supports for our students. The use of common planning time, which has been built into our new schedule, which we've had for several years now, has been very successful. We have departments that work together to review benchmark assessments, look at the data, discuss instructional strategies that work and may not work, state assessment data, and just looking at the pacing. During this time, teachers identify, I already said that, so we can move on. Every fall, and this is thanks to the district, we administer the PSATs to all sophomores and juniors. And the use of the PSAT data helps us to identify potential AP students. Students very often believe, oh, I can't do AP, that's only for the smart students. And that's not true. If a student has a passion, they can take that one AP course, 2 AP courses to challenge themselves and prepare themselves for college. The PSATs also prepare sophomores for the SATs, and they need that practice. And we also, for the juniors, this gives them National Merit Scholarship eligibility. So we use that PSAT data. The counselors meet with students. They look at where their strengths and weaknesses lie, and they offer them different opportunities and suggestions to help strengthen themselves as they move forward.
So where are we going? We really wanted to focus on, we take that sense of belonging really important at Dartmouth High School. We really focus on an increased involvement. I think our students are probably sick of me here saying the school day doesn't end at 2:03 for every Dartmouth High School student. I've actually called a boss one time to say, give me 1 day a month, please, for a student. We have worked with the idea of that you need to be more than just a 203 student. So in the fall, we had 400 students, over 400 students go out for athletics, over 110 students for band. We have 46 clubs and activities. Andy just gave me the numbers about 2 hours ago for athletics. Right now, we have about 260 kids registered for winter athletics. And that's a decrease in number of sports, so that's still at that participation rate per sports that we're really looking forward to.
And just one thing I want to jump in and note. During the pandemic, when we were all home and virtual, there were students that would email me and said, Ms. Xavier, I have an idea for a new club. How about this? And we kept a lot of our clubs and activities going when we went through the pandemic. And to this day, students are constantly bringing new ideas. So it just makes me very proud and happy to be part of that, because they need that extra support. They need that connection. And if students, research shows if students are involved in after-school activities, they are more successful academically.
Mr. Coogan says often, give me 10 students, I'll find you an advisor. Just give me 10 friends, and I'll get you an advisor. We supported connection through outside presenters, and we're still continuing to do that. I want to plug Minding Your Mind on December 7th. That is a parent presentation at 6:30. Prior to that, we have a showcase night of our school. That's going to go from 5 to 6:15, so hopefully parents can then travel right into the auditorium, see a wonderful presentation on mental health and trauma and supports, and you have survivors talking about their stories. That we really want the community to come out for this. It's really important. We did it back when I was at my other school. We did it here for the opening session for our staff, and how many of our staff came up and said, we need this for everyone. So parents, we're encouraging you, please come out to that. And we're going to continue that with speakers based off of student concerns, and that comes from, again, our student leaders in our building and our club leaders that really say, hey, we would like to hear something about this. And with our schedule, it really helps having that pace period where we can bring in presenters and support that. We've targeted instruction and connecting relationships to the One Dartmouth motto. We are one Dartmouth High School. We are one community. We are one together. We really spent our first 3 days on building relationships. We did 3 days of advisory. We haven't done that before. And the whole purpose is that every student needs someone connected to this building. And we've also increased student recognition through displays, announcements, multimedia, and in-class achievements. We really want to push our students that do well, and we want to and push not just the students that always get the recognition, but students across the board that are getting recognition. And it's been a focus, and we keep talking about that, especially at our lead teachers.
Grade appropriate instruction. As a district leadership team, we have done some work with Optic, which is a platform that provides our administrative team with the opportunity to calibrate culturally responsive look-fors and to identify aspects of great teaching practices aligned to each of the 7 focus elements of the teacher evaluation rubric. So just putting on that particular lens as we observe different classrooms and teachers and evaluate our teachers kind of helps us as an administrative team to be in line, in sync, so we can support our teachers and to bring out the very best in them. They're amazing. They devote so much time, and we just want to be there for them so they can be their best selves for our kids. Using student supports to help students create a clear learning pathway. This work began a few years back, and students continue to create pathways with their counselors, plan out what they want to do for the next 4 years. So that way, if they want AP courses, not doing them all junior, senior year, they're kind of peppering them throughout, looking at what their strengths are, what their passions are, and helping them to plan accordingly so they're not in the last minute hustling and trying to get courses in. So we're very proud of our counselors and our student support team that meets on a regular basis to support our students and provide interventions for them. We have homework hangout. Our PACE period has been a phenomenal addition to our schedule, and it allows students the choice of where they can go, where they can receive the enrichment, the extra help, and supports that they need. Continuation of blended and personalized learning with a focus on student achievement. Before the pandemic, we partnered, as Mr. Shea had mentioned, with Highlander Institute. We trained 2 cohorts of teachers, and from that point on, we've really had a focus on blended, personalized, and project-based learning. When I go into classrooms, I see teachers using choice boards, station rotation, and I think that's important so students can not only have the choice, but they also are provided with authentic learning experiences, which we have more work to do with that, but this is, we're moving forward. We continue to capitalize on the 2 cohorts of teachers that we had trained in the past, and we would like to move forward maybe with a 3rd to kind of just provide support to all of our students and all of our teachers in moving forward with blended, personalized, and project-based learning. We continually revise our program of studies and our class options. We've included pathways of study, which include Project Lead the Way, advanced placement courses, culminating different experiences for students to ignite their passion. This year, we're adding AP pre-calculus and also AP music theory to our course offerings. Along with that, we have a newly established Business and Innovation and Technology Department. And we're very excited about the pathways that Mr. Parati has created for our students in that particular department, and we see great things ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna present you guys that on December.
Yeah, so I gave you a little
It's
glimpse.
yeah, it's
Sorry.
not no, it's not something we want approval. We want to be open about the changes that we are making, and they're not massive changes. But as we do change some wording, we're gonna show you guys that in December. When we talk about monitoring and understanding, feedback is one of the most efficient ways for student learning and to gather student learning. We are taking a massive focus on feedback. Our last faculty meeting focused on feedback. We're going to continue to talk about what feedback means and how to effectively do that. As a teacher, I think it was one of the best tools I ever learned was to how I was giving feedback, and that's when you get that bang for the buck and the time and the effort and all of that. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to use the MTSS and RTI models to support and identify students at risk. We use that during we actually have a spot and be planning that we're using it. We're using some of our support staff. Really those tier 2 interventions. So instead of jumping right up to tier 3 interventions, we're really looking to see where we can support our students as a quick intervention and a support, get them back on track and hopefully keep them in that like 85% of that triangle support model.
Just a note about the feedback. What's important, not only for teachers to allow students the time to read their feedback and to learn from it, but student reflection. Another emphasis that we have this year is giving the time student to reflect on their learning, to show what they've learned, to express what they're struggling with, giving the students the time to do that, as well as our teachers after their lessons to kind of debrief and talk about, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, and how could I do that better?
Yeah, reflection is, I think, one of the best things you can do as a teacher and a student and as a learner. And then lastly, it's that strategic use of that CPT time. We're lucky that we have a significant amount of CPT time for our staff. And it's excellent to work on those data cycles and really to drive that student outcome learning. We have a really strong lead teachers team, and they're really focusing on using that time to make educational decisions and supportive in that environment. So I want to thank you for your time. We're really happy about what we've got going on at Dartmouth High. We've got a lot of options. We're really focusing on building a building where students want to be every single day, making that learning appropriate, and just continue to make sure that we're doing what's right. And that's been our focus so far this year.
And building on that partnership with the middle school, I think, is really important. We do the orientation in the summer, and every year it gets better and better. And we're just very excited because if we can create a solid transition with the middle school, our students will come in prepared and they'll know what they need to do. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. Mrs. White, we'll start with you.
I just want to say first, thank you. You know, you're doing such a great job. I think just coming in from this year, again, no masks, just a return to normalcy, it just feels exciting to be here. The kids seem real. I mean, just look at the gym when you walk by. Like, it's just, so it feels great. I think you guys are doing such a, again, third job of really trying to, bring these students in. And, I think there's like a new forensics club. I mean, again, all the different clubs that are out there. And personally, I'm so excited to hear about AP Music Theory, since my son was asking about that. So, so lots of really exciting things. And again, lots of different avenues for different kids to find their place and their voice and their people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, that sense of belonging, I just really appreciate it. I love, Mr. Shea, when you talked about, like, the school day doesn't end about at 2:03. That's poignant. It really struck me, and so I thank you for that, and I thank you for your receptiveness to my my input in all of this. And I love to see all the students get motivated to support, like, the unified Banner School Award. But I wonder, and I hope, and I would probably bet the fact that, your focus on increasing participation in after-school programs and that sort of thing, that there's a focus, I'm sure there is, on all students. And I think about the PASS and PAL students, and, the theme of Special Olympics, unified sports. It's like we're more alike than different, and all students have interests and strengths, and and this isn't a criticism at all, it's just to kind of think a little bigger. I think of a colleague of mine, Dr. Rossetti. He's a sibling of a young man with disabilities, and he talked about his brother Todd. And I may have shared this story over the years, but his brother Todd was very popular in school. He was a student with cerebral palsy, and everybody knew Todd. But that didn't equate to getting asked out on a Friday night to join the crew. And this can be said for all students, and it resonates with me personally. And I'm always mindful of not just leaving it at being part of that high five club.
Yeah.
We don't want our kids to be high fived in the hallway and then not leave their 4 years of high school without a friend. And I trust that you have this in the back of your mind because of your receptiveness and because of your background and because of what conversations that that I've been in with you, and just not to forget all those students.
Yeah, we were talking with our unified team, and when I got an opportunity to talk to them early in the season, I said the most impactful presentation I've ever seen was in a small group. A parent came in to us and said, how many of you all got a text message from your friend? Every kid raised their hand. And the parent then said, my son has never got a text message. Reach out, be connected, find a way to be connected. And that always sticks with me. Who is not being heard, who's the students that, yes, I think the High Five Club might be the best way to describe that is, yes, you're a part of our school community, but again, our Dartmouth High doesn't end at 2:03. It is almost 8 o'clock at night, and we have a full gym right now. Every student should want to be a part of that. Every student should be connected to Dartmouth High. I don't matter about abilities or disabilities or wherever you fall on that spectrum, you have a place here.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll maybe give Dr. Gifford a heart attack by saying, if I had my druthers, we wouldn't end at 2:03, but that's a conversation maybe for when Dr. Gifford's like, don't talk about school start times until I have no, right?
You got until May.
We won't bring that up right now. I think it's great that we continue on, but I'd love to see it not start at 7:30 in the morning. At any rate, I just want to say I like the idea of helping students find a clear path through their learning. We deal with this too, that oftentimes they see their classes as a series of sort of check boxes that I have to check this and I have to check that and I have to check this, and they never get a sense of how that all comes together to put them on a path. I also, I think this was difficult during the pandemic, and both of my kids really graduated during the pandemic. But I'd really like to see us focus on continuing to develop that sense of path beyond what happens when you leave Dartmouth High. I think it was difficult to manage that during the pandemic because a lot of the stuff is done face-to-face in that, common planning time or the PACE period, that sort of stuff. I'm in higher ed. I found the process of applying to colleges with my school somewhat baffling. So I can't imagine what it's like for kids who don't have parents who are in the industry, so to speak, or who are not involved in that process. And so I really like to see us to really focus on that, building that clear learning path, not just stopping it when you're done, but where does that go? And how do you do there, and to give them the tools and the supports that they need to take that next step, whatever it may be.
And very often, students, they don't see, like you said, that the courses that they take in high school are preparing them for their experience after high school. Right. And we're trying to get them to think about what is your interest? Do you want to work when you graduate? Do you want to go to college? What are your interests? Would you like to enter the world of service? So we're kind of having those conversations with them now and during advisories and presentations so they can connect those dots. Because very often they don't realize that until they're a junior or a senior, and they're like, oh, I wish I had done it differently. So we're really trying to focus on that.
That's great. Thank you.
And on that too, I talk to students often too that we have an incredible offering in Unified Arts and in our BIT program, and to explore really who you are. Right now, if I was to go take a photography class in the Redford Voc, I'm paying out of pocket right now. Morgan Bosworth has an amazing teacher downstairs that has a full photo studio where you can develop film or do digital film. we offer so much to find out who you are and what your interests are, and we're really focusing on encouraging students to make those choices and really helping guide them to say, what am I interested in? Maybe I'm not super interested in something, and I might find out about that later on in life. So again, we're really working on that student and that whole student of where they are and where they are currently and where we want to see them go and what we can, hopefully a future cost we can take off their plates and they don't have to pay outside later on to take a class.
It certainly paid off for us. We went on vacation this year, and my son, who had taken the digital photography class, took some amazing pictures. Everyone was like, "Was that a professional photographer?" And I was like, "No, he's trained at Dartmouth High." So you're right. It really did wonders for him. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just see, after this presentation, a lot of growth potential. I think that it's always been here. Obviously, COVID knocked us down several steps, but I'm starting to see it come back. I'm thrilled to see that as a district, we're really focusing on sense of belonging. I said that, I think, at the last meeting when the primary schools presented. But it's just so important, especially at the high school level, when sometimes things come to head or come to fruition, you start to recognize it a little bit more. So I'm thrilled to see that, and I'm thrilled to see that we're growing new pathways. I'm looking forward to that presentation because that's always been business technology. That's always kind of been, you know,
up your alley, right?
exciting to me, as Mr. Parati knows. So no, just a job well done presenting and just giving us, giving the committee a real high-level overview of what this year is going to look like, and you know, just I love to hear, you know, everything that's going on after school now, and I know it was happening before, but just the fact that we're normalcy, I keep stressing normalcy.
And we're so lucky to have amazing people. Ian with the band, Andy with athletics, you know. Graham is overseeing clubs and activities, which Rachel did before, and I did that too. We've got a lot of people that are in really good roles, doing really great things. So we're very lucky to have such a strong team around us that is really pushing our students to be connected and have that sense of belonging.
You know, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Shea, because I couldn't agree with you more that we certainly do have a large group of talented professionals in this district.
Yes, we do.
And that does not go unnoticed.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, we're lucky. Dartmouth is a special place. I'm biased, but I love Dartmouth. It's a special place. There's a lot to offer. The staff is incredible.
We have amazing students.
Amazing students, amazing staff, you know. There's so much great here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary?
Yeah, can I just add?
Mary?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Shea?
Mr. Shea, just.
Mr. Shea?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add, like, quickly one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it just occurred to me as you were talking about the Unified Arts program, because it is so amazing. If there's any way, I would love to see that showcase a little bit more, like on this floor. I feel like when you come in, we don't see enough of the arts or the photography or those like samples, except for like at the art show, where we see music. You know, some of the other accomplishments. It would just be great to see that more like centralized, like you know, in some.
Oh, absolutely, and I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. I was going to say, too, one more thing. Please spread the word that our showcase night for 7th and 8th grade parents is that December 7th, 5 o'clock. We know it's starting a little earlier. That's why we're trying to get the word out as soon as possible, but we really wanted to tail it into the Minding Your Mind, so we wanted to bookend everything together, one night for families, but really, if you can spread the word, get the word out, it's going to be a great night. We're going to have the school. Dartmouth High is a special place. You guys, sometimes we see it in this time of the day when it's not as exuberant because it's the end of the day, but you felt it coming in today. Our goal is the whole building will be bustling like that and have a lot of energy in it for everyone to see all the incredible offerings at Dartmouth High, and we can compete with any other school. I really believe it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Good job.
Okay. Okay, that being said, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Dartmouth Middle School and Dartmouth High School 2022-2023 school improvement plans.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Waite, second by Ms. Amaral. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, well, we're behind the 8 ball, but that's all right. It's been good stuff. We'll take it. Anytime, anytime. Okay, old business, superintendent search. Mr. Kiley, you sent out those requests?
Yeah. Would you like me to share? So I prepared a request for quotes for a search consultant for the superintendent position. Issued that to 3 organizations that commonly do that here in the Commonwealth, with a due date of November 30th, which I thought would be fair timing. Gave them 2 weeks to be able to prepare their proposal, and then obviously for the next school committee meeting, you'd be in a position to make a decision. So as soon as we get the submissions back, I'll sort of organize those for you, and hopefully they stick to the format, which is in my request for quotes is pretty clear as to what we're asking them to do. And once they do that, I'll provide that info to you, and you can decide whether you would like them present on the 12th for questions or a presentation or whatever works for the committee at that time. So,
Thank you. Questions? Yeah, okay. One or the other. Okay. One of the other things that we are going to have to put to bed very quickly, and by the next meeting have a decision, is whether or not we want to try and get an interim superintendent in here. I know we had some discussion on that the last time I gave you my 2 cents on it type of deal, but we are going to have to take a look at that. I know I gave you this looking for a leader from MAS that MASC handed out at the conference, and I went through it over the past week, and there's some good stuff in there type of deal. So, you know, take a look at that, and let's make a decision, because we're going to have to move on this. And the other thing we're going to have to think about is, and on the superintendent, on the actual search itself, is the number on the committee and how we want to break it up type of deal, you know, administrators, school committees, faculty, anybody outside of that type of deal. Dr. Jenkins.
Can we dig up what the search committee looked like last time? I think that might be helpful to sort of informing us. I mean, I think it went pretty well last time, and so there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
No,
We
I'm
can
not trying
start,
to- I'm not
yeah.
try- I'm not trying to reinvent the
No,
wheel.
I know you're not, but it just, if maybe, I don't know if Kate or someone could dig that up and just sort of share it with us, that might help us sort of think about what that looked like, and we can
Yep.
start from there as a discussion starter.
Yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's easy enough to do.
Mr. Nunes?
Dr.
MASC has a document, too, that we can share with you about the decisions that you're going to need to make in that search process, which I'm not sure the one that you
Yeah.
have probably has some of that information in it. But
Yeah, it does.
they also, Jim Hardy just sent us a document today
Okay.
that is sort of a decision-making timeline sort of thoughts.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Chris?
In regards to the interim superintendent, Mr. Chair, I was just wondering if Mr. Kiley had an opportunity to think about this, or, what would be the next steps, or I'm sure he's probably wondering, or whoever the interim might be, is what is the expectation of the school committee for an interim, whether it's Mr. Kiley or someone else, but I do agree that I think for the next meeting, we should come prepared to have those conversations. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, that's fine. Jim, you want to answer? You want to?
I'm happy to help in whatever way the committee, sees best for the district. So in whatever role that is, I'm happy to be a part of that. So I've been a part of it before. I thought it went pretty well last time. So it's been a good group, and obviously we have a good team in place. So.
Okay. Anything else with the superintendent search? No? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Excuse me, new business. Mr. Kiley, FY '24 budget timeline. Aren't we still in '23?
I know,
It's
this
only-
is the
it's only
time of year,
November?
right, where it starts to get confusing, right? So we're thinking ahead to '24, we're still looking back at '22. We have audits that haven't been completed yet. We have, quite a bit of work still to do on that end of things. In fact, the town audit from fiscal year '21 just recently got completed. So that was way behind schedule, by the way. But at any rate, we're living in fiscal year '23 right now. So there's a lot of moving parts. This is sort of the first public part of the fiscal year '24 process, is to take a look at the timeline. And our goal would be that we do all our internal work, which we're already working on, and be prepared to bring some thoughts forward to a budget subcommittee meeting, likely towards the end of January, and then bring forward in February to the school committee a budget proposal for consideration. Mr. Nunes and I had a brief discussion prior to the meeting about what uncertainty there's going to be out there at that time when we're ready in mid-February to make a budget proposal, and we are not going to have anything to go on in terms of the state finances at that point. The good news is I don't see the state finances getting worse from an educational perspective for us. So I also don't see them getting dramatically better. But at least they should be somewhat predictable. The town side of government might be a little more volatile on the state legislature side. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what that looks like. But obviously there's a number of uncertainties that are going to be a part of this process along the way. So we need to be planning ahead and flexible and thinking about the grants that are going to be going away, certainly being cognizant of that. And obviously we're still in negotiations. So, we have that out there that, hopefully we'll have resolved by February. But by the time we publicly present, we also have things like school bus transportation bid that is going to be coming up, and we'll have that in time for the budget proposal, but it's going to be significant. Another major factor is inflation and how that is playing a role in our costs in terms of a number of things, but particularly the Operational Services Division at the state issued a rate of increase for special ed outplaced programs at 14%. And we don't know how that's going to impact us, whether the state's going to intercede and attempt to decrease that number in some way to make it more manageable for us, or provide additional assistance to us. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So this budget process would then, once we have an opportunity to start talking about it with you folks in February, it'll be an interesting one from there, moving through the town process. And they have a new, they will have new finance leadership over there too, which might make it interesting. So it's a lot to think about in this one.
A lot going on.
Thank you.
Shannon?
So can you remind me where we stand with ESSER funding? Does it bring us all the way through fiscal year '24, or do we hit the cliff during fiscal year '24?
We hit the cliff during fiscal '25.
25, okay.
So it is available into fiscal '25 at this point, and they haven't. There's been discussion about extending that, because there has been some concern about spending the money at the federal level and at the different states levels, but they have not done that, and I don't think they're going to. I think September 30th of 2024 is going to be the end of the use of that. So it's a precarious position from a budget perspective. We've been talking a lot about it on our side. So,
Ms. Amaral?
Now, I'm just thinking about, that ESSER cliff, and then also considering, you said you don't foresee, or I would agree with you in terms of like the educational side of it, in terms of legislative sort of support, like lack of a better word. But then I think of SOA, and which is incredibly important, education, equity, and all that in the formula, but remembering that we were held harmless, right? And we're seen as a town that doesn't contribute tax-wise as much as, we're perceived to not contribute as much as we could, therefore don't get the support that we could if we did. And so do you sort of worry, or any talks, or what are you hearing around that implication? Are we going to be held harmless moving forward?
We
as
will
that
be
moves
held
forward?
harmless
Okay.
again. I'm pretty certain that that will not be, that we won't be in jeopardy of that happening. But we also won't be benefiting. So, through that SOA process. But it'll be interesting to see, the question 1 passed in the Massachusetts ballot. So it'll be interesting to see how those funds are allocated too. I have a feeling it won't be to us, but you never know. Maybe it will. We certainly will have an opportunity to lobby for that with our legislators.
Excuse me, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question, actually more of a request, hoping that my colleague, Dr. Jenkins, and I can fit in here somewhere a budget subcommittee meeting. I'd personally like to hear a little bit more about the ESSER positions. What are we doing, as far as new positions, attrition, all that. I'm thinking somewhere in between the individual meetings with principals and directors, the proposal review, and then between the 13th and the 26th of January, somewhere in that window is kind of what I'm thinking. This way you've had the opportunity to meet with everyone.
That's fine. Right now, the budget timeline shows a budget subcommittee meeting on February 6th, but it's not to say we couldn't do it a little earlier than that.
I'd kind of like to have a little more involvement in this, I think, is where I'm coming from.
I don't wonder whether we're thinking about maybe, because that February 6th meeting, it looks like we're meeting with the principals. And I don't wonder whether the meeting you're talking about is us with the
Agreed.
administration.
It is, yes.
So 2 meetings instead of 1.
Yeah, we could do one towards
Even
the
earlier.
second half of January, I think would be a good time for that. We would have
fine.
already, we would be well on our way to developing what is, the draft budget at that point. So
Agreed.
that'll be fine.
Okay.
You don't need a motion on this, Jim. This is
I-
just an FYI, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Any other questions? And again, I would think that this also was a fluid document.
Yes.
Yeah.
It always changes.
always-
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever done one that didn't change in
Yeah,
some way.
I don't think so either.
But
In all my years.
we'll be flexible.
Okay. Like New England weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
That's right.
Okay. New business, superintendent update.
Okay, a couple of things. The 2 schools kind of gave you some information that was on my list, but just to go over a few more. The middle school, actually all of the schools have been doing some fundraisers where they continue to support needy families throughout the holidays. So I ran in middle school in Quinn last week. They were doing a couple of fundraisers with Hat Day and all of that. So that goes on throughout the district all the time. Parent conferences for middle school is right around the corner. I know they were sending out information on that. And Mr. Doan, he did mention today, but he also called me today and had me asked that I mention that the after-school clubs really had a lot of participation. They were very happy about that. Quinn had their big name reveal today for the Lion, so that was Leo.
Oh.
Ms. Thomas sent me some good pictures, so we'll get those up. And the district was able to get from DESE, they passed out more COVID tests, so we had them picked up last week. We put them in all of the schools for all of the staff to take home a couple, and they're going to be sent home to parents, I believe, tomorrow. The schools were passing those out to the kids. Again, it's just voluntary, they were free, so we took advantage of that. As Mr. Shea mentioned, once again, we are having the Minding Your Mind, two dates for that, and one will be at the middle school and one at the high school. But I just want to make a note that the one at the high school in the evening is for any parent. It's not just high school parents. Any parent in the district that wants to attend that. As you know, Matilda is coming up, the play, so that's December 1 and 2, and 3, so you should have information on that. Thanksgiving game, of course, is going to be at Fairhaven at 10 o'clock on Thursday. And I did want to mention also Mr. Parati was once again doing crazy things. But on December 10th, he's hooking up with DCTV, and they're doing a live telethon from the Target, where they have the fill the bus with the police department. So I have here 2 senior students, Hannah Lima and Ryan Aruda, will be hosting that. So I'm sure you'll be able to stop by and bring your toy for that event. So he said it's the first time they're doing it, and we'll see where it goes. So
What's the date for that again?
that's December 10th,
It's a
and it's from
Saturday.
10 to 2.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have.
Beautiful, thank you. Couple of things. Dr. Gifford talked about Matilda, so that's good. Congratulations to our unified basketball, our unified sports teams on the banner that they received a week and a half ago, the day before, November 10th, the day before Thanksgiving, Veterans Day, I should say. I was fortunate enough to be here, and boy, what a great time to see these young men and ladies participating, and the students that helped them out. It is just wonderful to see these students and the smiles on their face, and the students in the high school students, you know, they had all the students in, and, you know, cheering them on was just wonderful to see. Our winter sports teams are going to kick off Monday, right after Thanksgiving. You can move from one into another, so good luck to them. And last but certainly not least, congratulations to our girls volleyball team for their semifinal run this past year. They lost to Westboro last Friday night, but they had a heck of a season, and my hat's off to them, and again to their coach Rachel Lassie for being coach, you know, into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to her. Anything else? Ms. Wade?
Yeah, so the only other business I had is, as you may well know, Heidi Brooks was is our school committee rep along with me on the charter review committee, and just a few things have come up. So I just wanted to, and I did send that, and I apologize for like the lateness, but I just wanted to gather like opinions since we are your representatives. Should I read like the?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so one actually, and again in this group, the charter review actually. Reflects whether or not there's a proposed change in the current reading, in the current language. So currently the language says, and it's about coordination between really like multiple member elected committees as well as the select board. So it says, notwithstanding, and I'm going to skim down, notwithstanding their election by the voters, for the purpose of coordinating the work of all town agencies, the town officials named in this section shall be subject to the call of the select board or of the town administrator at all reasonable times for consultation, conference, and discussion on any matter relating to the respective offices or multiple member bodies. Now, at one point, there was talk that we would accept the school committee. I don't know, where did we land again, Heidi, on that? Or was that something we were still coming, I'm sorry.
Yes, at the charter committee, we're going back and forth.
Yes.
Does the school committee belong as a part of a multiple member body?
Should I get up there? Maybe.
Through the town?
Yeah.
I think you're fine, Mary.
Okay.
Or are they exempt? And one of the things we talked about is the school committee has always worked with the select board and the other boards, finance committee when you need to, or the Board of Health. So we felt that you were already doing it, but do we need to have it formalized in the charter?
So it is currently, again, the question is, do multiple member bodies, like, again, they were accepting school committee at one point, so again, does that, I think that was the question too, like, are we like referring to multiple member bodies with the exception of school committees, or are we just removing that exception? I think somewhere else we were removing it, so we were, the charter.
Yeah,
And Heidi is also the chair of the Charter Review Committee, so.
I thank Mr. Oliver for suggesting me to the committee now 2 years ago.
Look at where you
I know.
Our terms were supposedly up in September, you realize that.
Yes, I
yeah.
also got that,
Yeah.
so I need to look at that. But we are really being quite thorough.
Yes.
And what has come about is the charter, does the charter reflect how we're doing business? Or should the charter reflect how we're doing business? And that's the struggle that we're having now. What does it mean? What we're looking at was written in 2010. And, I mean, our first struggle was everything was still being posted on a bulletin board, paper and thumbtack, as opposed to, we're trying to incorporate what does it look like in this digital media world. But we do want to make sure that in the charter that we reflect the work of the school committee and the work of the school committee working with other boards.
Yes.
Shannon?
So I'll just note, I think we had a little bit of this conversation last time about this allows the select board to call the school committee into a meeting, but it doesn't allow the school committee to call the select board into the meeting. It allows the select board to dictate the terms of the agenda. So oftentimes we go to meetings where the agenda is not entirely relevant to us. And so I'd like to see the charter reflecting the select board and the school committee as co-equal branches of government and giving us the authority as well to call the select board into meeting with us on occasion where we set the agenda and the things that we may perhaps want to talk about with the select board.
And that was my feedback in the committee as well.
I mean, my two cents is, usually, we know for a fact that most of the time we're going to have 2 meetings a year with the select board and the finance committee. And as I've said before, sometimes, no disrespect, Heidi, it's, not beneficial to us because whatever the board and the finance committee wish to do, you put those 2 groups together, we're outnumbered. So you can say it's black, we can say it's white, and we're gonna lose, type of deal. So that's the problem that I have sometimes is that, whatever you want to talk about has probably already been talked about and discussed. We don't get the information until that night, so we're flying blind.
That's been past practice.
So,
Maybe things will change.
Maybe things will change.
but that's my 2 cents. Chris?
Yeah, so under the authority of the Charter Review Committee, I don't know if it's possible, but I do agree that I think it is important that the school committee has a mechanism to invite the select board into a joint meeting with us where we set the agenda. I do agree with that because there have certainly been some times throughout my tenure here that would have been very helpful, instead of sitting through a lot of back and forth on topics that really don't pertain to us.
Yeah, just in, like the conversation saying, what are some of the language that actually, for me, actually was a little concerning was shall be subject to the call, because again, I think it put us in a subservient role, a bit, and again, to your point, I think, we should be expected to work together, but again, subject to the call was, something I felt, stood out for me. And then again, the question is, it says of the select board or the town administrator, which is another, I think we were talking about removing town administrator from that statement. But again, that was why I wanted to bring it,
It could be the town administrator at the request of the Board of Selectmen too, so.
Right.
If you threw that in there, it might not be too bad, because the town administrator works for the Board of Selectmen. But I do agree with you, I mean, if we know far enough in advance, if you had sat here and said, if the selectmen said, hey, we want you guys here tonight, we've got a packed agenda,
And we both meet on Monday nights.
And we both meet on Monday nights, and sorry, that doesn't work, so.
All right, so I think so clearly we need to revisit that, and then, if we can, and again, we are anyway, but
Yep.
I just want to.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I guess speak. And then, so we'll revisit that, work on the language, if that works for you, Heidi, and then, I mean, if there's other language that we can come up with, maybe at our next meeting, we can address that, and then we'll bring it to the charter review. And then the other issue is the mode of election, and, again, this came up in our last meeting. So there was a lot of discussion around the fact that whereas in the select board, you have someone running for a particular seat, that's not the case in the school committee, and if we have 2 seats up for election, and we have 3 people running, it's the two people who have the highest majority, of course, like win those 2 seats. So the conversation was about, should we change the mode of election for the school committee to be in line with the select board and other groups, so that you would run for a particular seat. And that formula of, how that would be done, like seat 1, seat 2. So if there were 2 seats that were, up for, election, and, and I was running against John could be the non-contested seat and someone would run against me. So that was the other question about whether or not that's something that we should go through as a change. Now, that would be a change. So just to clarify real quick, the first piece right now is the current language. Okay, so we'd have to adjust that to be more reflective of what we think. The second piece is a proposal for a change from the current.
Dr. Jenkins.
So I'm a political scientist by training, and political scientists have things to say about modes of elections, and particularly multi-member districts, which is essentially what we're talking about, versus single-member districts. So I went today when I got this and I dug up some of the research, and there's some mixed findings, but essentially multi-member districts increase the diversity of the representatives who are elected to government. Generally speaking, it's positive for electing women. Women are more likely to be elected to office in multi-member districts. It's a little bit more mixed for candidates of color, but multi-member districts, single-member districts have advantages for candidates of color over multi-member districts when minority voters are geographically concentrated. So when you have a majority-minority district, those sorts of districts will be more likely to elect candidates of color. We do not have sort of a geographic concentration of minority voters in Dartmouth. So at best, I would say that multi-member districts are a wash for the representation of minorities, and the research is pretty clear that it's positive for the election of women. I just want to put that out there for you because there has been a lot of scholarly research about this question. I'm happy to come talk to y'all about that if you want at some meeting. But this is not sort of just opinion. This is, let's look at when we make changes from multi-member to single member or back and forth, or let's compare electoral systems. Like in some state legislatures, there are multi-member districts, some there are single-member districts we can compare. And so it's pretty clear that multi-member districts leads to the increase in diversity of people who win elections. So I would say I'm a fan of it. I think multi-member districts are good. So I would be opposed to changing that.
Okay.
Anybody else? I'll give you.
I need some time. I need some time to do some research.
My thought on it is leave it as it is, because other than that, if there are 2 of us running, all right, it's 2, 2, and 1 type of deal. So the one possibly can have somebody, more than one, running for that position. For those of us that are 2 and 2 type of deal, you've got a personal opinion, you stand on your merits, okay? It's not a popularity contest and such, or somebody that's been here a long time, or a newbie, or anything of that nature. I think what it is somebody that has to stand on their merits. So to leave it the way it is, and we all run, we're all equal, it's perfect.
But we'll take that information back to the committee. The committee then makes a decision about which wording they're going to go forth. But the process is not done at this committee. We then need to present it to town meeting. It then goes to Boston to the legislature review, and then may or may not be able to be going to a full town election on these changes. So.
And just, and I was thinking about this too, is that if my memory's any good, it's the select board and us are the only ones that have staggered terms per se of a possibility of more than one person running for re-election. Your Board of Health, your Planning Board, Parks and Recreation, Library, et cetera. I believe they're all separate, one at a time because of the length of terms. If my memory's any good.
Some 5-member boards,
serve 5 years. Some 5-member boards serve 3, and those are the boards that we're looking at.
Right.
We're also looking at the number of boards, should boards continue to be elected or appointed. And that is not something that we're looking at school committees. School committee by statute is an elected
statute, yeah.
position.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Appreciate your
Very
insight.
welcome.
Yes,
Thank you for all your time.
Thank you so much,
And
Mr.
can I just
Oliver.
interject? I would, it might be helpful. It would be very helpful, I think, to have her, perspective again, just as coming in as political science, because we've been looking for, at the research for some other pieces too. And I'll send you, if you don't mind, I'd like to send you a few questions because, again, we're struggling with some other, components
Absolutely.
of like the amount of people in town meeting, membership. So thank you, to say the least.
Thank you.
Won't stop. Thanks. I'm in favor of like.
All right. That being said, anything else under new business? Okay. Our next meeting, I had sent everyone an email regarding our next meeting on December 12th, if we could start at 5 or 5:30, because I've got my grandson's holiday concert. Fortunately, which is here, but
Works for me.
at 7 o'clock. Does it work?
There's fine with me. It's fine with me.
Does 5 o'clock work for you, Chris? I know you got to
Yes.
come in from board.
Yeah, that should be okay.
5 o'clock, okay. So let's do 5 o'clock. Perfect. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So our next meeting is going to be December 12th at 5 PM. I know we have school choice on the docket that night, so.
And capital improvements.
And capital improvement. Look at that, huh? Money we don't have, and hopefully the town does. Very good. Can we put a new school or a new roof?
New roof wouldn't be bad.
What's that?
I think we're doing MCAS that night, too.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Very good. All right, so our next meeting is December 12th at 5 PM. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for an update pertaining to collective bargaining with union personnel and to discuss potential litigation.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Wade. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Gunther?
John Nunes?
Yes.
Mary Waite?
Yes.
Kathleen Amaral?
Yes.
Shannon Jenkins?
Yes.
Chris Oliver?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a happy Thanksgiving and be safe.